Hello there, Leo on a mountain, back once again in the Forest of Bowland, my testing ground, Fair-Snape. I should say I don't own Fair-Snape, but it is where I test all my tents, simply because it keeps everything sort of in the same ballpark, pitching in the same place every time, so there's no sort of environmental issues that put me off. But what are we testing? Well, today we're testing the Vango Nyx 200. It's been around for a bit. It's a budget tent, and I like testing budget tents because, you know, you sort of find little gems sometimes. And of course, Vango have been around for a long time now, so really they should know how to make tents. So we'll see how the tent performs, see if I like it, and yeah, have another wild camp. So let's go and set up camp. Trig. Well, here we are at the top of Fair-Snape, and I've popped my bag down, saving my space. Well, you can see it in the background. Yeah, claim my spot, if you will. But I'm going to wait a little bit before I set up because it is still a little bit early, and I don't want to annoy anyone by putting up a tent too early on. Right, so this is the Nyx 200. I've already had it out of the bag. I've already test pitched it, make sure everything's in the bag, and it is. So no problem there. This is definitely a waterproof tent. It's got a hydrostatic head of 3000 millimeters, 3 meters hydrostatic head. Yeah, pretty impressive. That's not too bad, especially for a budget tent. You do get them coming in sometimes at about 2000 millimeters, but I mean, really, the rain to penetrate something like this is going to have to be really horrific and very windy. It has fiberglass poles, so for a start, it is budget. It'd probably make a great summer camping tent. When it comes to the winter, when it gets a bit windier, I'm not sure I would want to put them through that. You probably could get away with it, don't get me wrong, but me personally, I like my aluminium poles, or even stronger than that. This does fit in the bottom of my backpack, like I always like to do. I don't like to fit these vertically in my backpack. I just want to keep them separate, in the separate compartment at the bottom of my camping bag, the Osprey Rook. And yeah, really good. So it's not too heavy, 2.17 kilos, which isn't bad at all. I carry more weight in beer than that, you know, if I wanted to, and food. But yeah, it says pitch time of 7 minutes. We'll see. It probably is. I'm not going to rush it. I'm just going to make sure I go through everything properly. But yeah, that's the tent. Now, I have got a worry about this, and that's these pegs. They are not the best. They'll do the job, and I mean, in a night like this, I'm not going to need anything more than that. But what's crazy is how many pegs come in this. There's 21 pegs in this this tent. I don't know why there's so many pegs. Like, to me, it sort of boggles my mind a little bit how they've managed to pack so many pegs into a tent. So obviously there's a lot of guy lines and a lot of places to put things, but what I have done, just in case a few of those bend, which I am fully expecting, I'm going to also do a triangular peg like this, like I have a lot with my other tents, my better tents if you will. As you can see, it's not going to bend as easy, not going to break or just pull out the ground as easy. So I'm going to use a few of them if I need to, if any of these turn out to be terrible. But yeah, so we're going to pitch it up. It is a nice night, really nice night, so I don't think it's really going to be a massive test for it, although I don't think I'd want to put this through a big windy rainy camp, simply because it's the fiberglass poles are really thin. Now the Tame R2 that I have, which also has fiberglass poles, seem a lot chunkier of a pole, whereas these don't seem that, how do I put it, bomb-proof. But anyway, I'm going to do my best YouTube camping impression and drink some Brewdog, and wait for the sun to get a bit lower in the sky so I can actually get this tent up and get camping. Right, so as you can see, this is an inner pitch first tent. Yeah, not my favourite kind of tent, I'll be honest with you. I normally like to pitch it all as one, obviously that's the most ideal thing. Problem is a lot of tents aren't actually like that, but there are some that pitch outer first, which is better in my opinion than an inner first then outer. But there isn't a right lot of mesh on this tent, so it might not actually be such a bad thing. There are some tents which are very meshy on the inner tent. When you pitch them, there's a lot of mesh, which is great for condensation, whereas this isn't quite as meshy. There's a few pockets, I'll just show you. So you got a bit of mesh there, there and there, and then down at the feet you've got this bit of mesh here. But the rest of it is covered. It's not taped and seamed, although I don't think it is. I'll have a look when I get inside and I'll let you know if it is taped and seamed, but I don't think it is, simply because it's just an inner, so it'd be a waste of seam and tape. So I'm going to get the outer on now, but yeah, it's not too bad. One thing I will say is slacken these off, because if you don't, I'll be honest with you, what will happen is you're going to put the poles under more tension than they really should have. Then once you've got the poles in, then tension up, because you could, you know, make some noises, especially with fiberglass poles, make some noises that they probably heard in the ocean gate. So we don't want that. We want to make sure there's enough sort of free play, if you will, in that that eyelet, the little peg that goes inside the fiberglass pole. So then we know we can get that pin inside the pole fairly easily. Well, I've connected the outfly to the inner tent. This is my issue. I've just done a simple loop, nothing spectacular. It's like I'm doing my shoelaces. But as you can see, if you were to leave it connected, the problem you'd find is when you come to connect to, well, when you'd come to take out the pole, it would catch on the ridge of the poles, so you're not really going to be able to leave it attached. What I would have done if I was designing this is I would put a loop just here and connect the outer to that loop so you can leave it on, and then you'll be able to just slide the poles in. It's really not that hard. But again, it's a budget tent, so they probably don't want to give it any really easily accessible features like you'd probably get with a more expensive Vango tent. But anyway, I'm going to carry on. I'm going to start pegging it out and wonder where all these copious amounts of pegs go. So yeah, let's carry on. Well, I've got the outer fly on. Bit of a faff to peg down with those pegs. I've already bent one. I've probably bent more, but I don't know about it yet. Don't know if you can see it. Yeah. Not the best. Pegs are terrible, but we knew that. That's why I brought the other pegs. I'm going to try and live with these pegs. I know I've bent a couple more, but we'll find out tomorrow exactly how many I have bent. You're going to have bent pegs on this anyway. Not impressed with the pegs. Buy pegs. Buy 21 pegs. 21 pegs, wow. Yeah, but I'm going to open this door up now, and it looks like there's going to be a lot of room inside for basically a vestibule area. So that's going to be quite interesting. You'll be able to sit in the porch, if you will, because, yeah, looks pretty good. Anyway, let's get it opened and get our stuff inside and see how we look. Well, I'm going to be straight with you guys. This is not a good tent to put up, really. This is quite a bad design, if you were to ask me. When you open up the door, now yes, it's a bad design for one specific reason. Would it affect you on a night like tonight? No. But if it's raining, this door opens up over the inner fly. So when you open up the inner fly, the inner tent, if you will, I'll show you. Now I'm standing directly above the inner. This here, this whole area, if it's raining, is just going to get filled with water. Probably not a great design, if you were to ask me. I don't get why you'd do that. Yeah. That's not a great design, that. But it's spacious inside, so let's get inside. Right, well, unlike the Fox 2, I can actually sit upright in this thing, which I couldn't do in the Fox 2. Now, what I will say is, you've only got one end to sit up in, which is fine. There's no middle part, you know, you can still sit up and that's fine. But I've not closed this door yet, and I'm thinking that there's not going to be a right lot of room to sit up in when the doors are closed. The vestibule area that I thought was going to be great is not great because it sags, and there's not really much I can do about that. I've tried pulling it out, it doesn't work. Worrying. Another thing I don't like about this tent is there's only one zip on each door, and they've zipped it the wrong way. So when you unzip this slightly to get a bit of air, you're unzipping at the bottom. You want to be zipping from the top to let a bit of air out of the top. So I don't understand why they've done that. That's just, it's a terrible idea, terrible design. And it is the same. Well, the outer, it doesn't really matter as much. I can forgive them for a little bit for that. But the inner, when you want to unzip it for like a little bit more ventilation, say you want to unzip it to here. So, example, the opposite way around. I could have this bottom door closed while this bit is sort of hanging down, giving me a bit more ventilation instead of just the netting. So that's not great. Only one zip on each of the doors. I like my double zips because it gives you the ability to chop and change to whatever you want it to be, which is a really cool idea. But I don't know whether that's something to do with this style of door. Yeah, that is a door. But yeah, width wise, fairly decent width. It's not a 2-man, they never are. Well, they are. I know I had someone comment on my video saying that if you had 2 roll mats, you'd fit 2 people in there. And yes, you can, strictly speaking, fit 2 men in there. Not for me. I literally, the only reason I get 2-man tents is because I can fit my gear inside, keep it dry, keep it off the ground, and I don't have to think about it. But I'll be honest with you, it's still, I don't know. It's showing why it's cheap. It is a cheap tent. Is it good for summer? I would say it's probably a 3-season tent, this. But for a budget tent, it is taped and seamed, so that's always a good thing when you know you've got no stitching's going to give up the ghost and let any water in, so that's good. Pockets, there's some pockets in it, just down there, just there, and then down on the other side there. And that's it, just 2 pockets, which, I mean, put your phone and your keys in there, that's all you really want to put in there. But yeah, I think it's time to get my gear unpacked and yeah, get the roll mat out. Well, not the roll mat, the inflatable mat, because I want just one person in here. But yeah, right, let's get it all set up. Right, well, I've pumped up my mat. I have the NeoAir Xtherm extra large wide, the lot. So yes, it is bigger than a standard mat would be. However, this is a little too big for this tent. I'll show you. So as you can see, it is all the way to the end, and it's all the way to the end there. I don't know if it comes up on the camera, but it's slightly peaked up a little bit because it's obviously can't fully extend in the tent, and that's the width on either side. Yeah, that's not really any good to me. So when I said there was a decent bit of room in there, I may have miscalculated that in my head a little bit. But we'll see how the night goes. I'm getting a bit hungry now, so I think I'm going to make my pasta bolognese. I didn't bring my stag with me. I know I promised I'd cook my stag on my next camp, but I was meant to be somewhere else last night. The weather turned bad, and instead I thought I'd go out and buy a tent. I was meant to buy the Hyena 2 from Go Outdoors. They sold out everywhere, so I didn't get that tent. So I thought, what's the next budget tent that I can see? And a Vango. I thought, well, Vango, it's the name, it's supposed to be alright. So far I'm not impressed, Vango. That's how you can tell I'm not bought by these people. Oh my god, yeah, I wouldn't buy this tent if you were 2 people. If you want recommendations in 2-man tents, I've got plenty of them, look at my reviews. But this is not great. Not at all. Well, this is how well it's going. I'm using the seating here to cook my meal because I can't cook it in the confines of the tent. I could with the door open, but I can't cook inside the tent if I closed any of the doors. So it's not really any good. So it's another mark against it. But boiling my water, got my pasta bolognese, so I'm gonna have that. And my 3rd beer of the day, a new offering from Brewdog, came out this year, Wingman. See, I'm turning into this this stereotypical UK wild camper by drinking Brewdog. So yeah, I think next time I might have to bring some different beers, not be as mainstream. But yeah, it's a nice night. The sun's come back out, and hopefully, you know, hopefully I'll have a nice sleep. I'm sure I'll have a nice sleep, because I don't think it's really going to cause me that much of an issue with sleep. I just think that it's poorly thought out, this tent. It is a campsite tent, or even a festival tent. It's not a wild camping tent, because you've got all your stuff with you. You can't just climb a mountain, pitch up a tent with all your gear on your own, because you could never have 2 people in that tent, because you'd be keeping stuff outside. Yeah, it's just quite disappointing. I was hoping, you know, I'd be a little bit better than the Fox 2 maybe. It's nowhere near as good as the Fox 2, and I didn't really get on with that tent. I know a lot of people do, a lot of people love it and praise it. I get why, but I don't know how anyone could rave about that tent, unless that's the only tent they've had, or they've had really terrible tents before it. So anyway, my water's boiling. I'll get it on my food, and yeah, sit down, have my pasta bolognese, watch the suns get a bit lower in the sky, and have my beer. So, well, I've had my pasta bolognese, just finishing off my beer, and enjoying the sunset really. Hopefully we get a decent one, but yeah, I'm just reflecting on this tent. It may seem like I'm being very harsh in the way I'm talking about it, you know, but there are things that, even in a factory, even in designing it, really should have been seen as maybe that's not such a great idea. What I am going to do though is I'm going to repeg it out, the outer fly. I'm going to see if I can make the, well, if I can make the outer fly around the vestibule area a bit more taut, so there's a bit more room, because it does sag a bit, but again, it shouldn't be a difficult thing to do. The tape and seam, where that is, that's on the poles, so again, shouldn't really be causing an issue, but I'm going to pull it further out so we can get a bit more of a taut sort of vestibule area, but it does sag. Lengthwise, again, I mean, if you've not got a stupidly big sleeping mat like I've got, you know, you're going to be fine. But I've not had that problem before, really, when it comes to the actual length of the mat. I've never had a length issue, unless you talk to the missus. But yeah, I've never had a length issue with the mat being too big for a tent. It's always fitted in. It's never really been a problem. But yeah, not impressed with this tent. It's a shame, but we'll see how the night goes. We'll see how I feel in the morning about it. I might turn around and say, you know what, it's not as bad as I thought it was. So far though, if we're not talking about the tent, we're talking about the actual camp itself. I'm really enjoying it. It's a good wild camp. Right, I've made some adjustments. I don't think this is how I should do it, but I've not really read instructions for this, admittedly, my mistake. I'll have a quick look once I'm in there, but this is the way I've guided it out. There's only 3 guy lines. You're only going to be able to guide this out if the wind's coming from one direction only. So, yeah. It's made the vestibule a bit more taut, but we'll have a look inside what it's actually like. But I've not really got much hopes for it. It is what it is, really. Right, so moment of truth time. Will this door close and have any room in it whatsoever? Let's have a look. Well, no. There is barely enough room for my boots. So yeah, not really any good whatsoever. However, inside, the inner tent is not sagging, which is quite good. There is room to sit up. Now I'll close this inner door, and now for the moment of truth when it comes to, oh god, yeah, comes to actually closing this one. Okay, so now we're fully closed in. Can I sleep here? Oh, and the answer is yes, actually I can. Well, that's not too bad. I mean, my head is touching the inner, but it's not so much so that it's in my face. So I might actually be able to sleep in this quite well. That's a good thing. So, it's made me a little bit happier about sleeping in this tonight, because I had visions of this just sagging in my face and just annoying me all night, but it's not. Well, the night's drawing in now, and I've just had a coffee and a flapjack in the tent with the door open, and I think now I'm going to close that door. I'm going to get some shut-eye. I think I'm going to get up early in the morning. It is bank holiday, but I think I'm going to go into work. Well, I know I'm going to go into work. I'm going to get some things done, get some jobs shoved out the door, so I'm not worrying as much all the work I've got to do before I go on my next trip, which is the NC 500 and the Isle of Skye. So that should be a really nice trip. Can't wait to get that done. That's going to be very enjoyable. But yeah, let's see how this night goes, and I'll see you guys in the morning. Well, good morning. And yeah, I missed sunrise, and there wasn't really a sunrise anyway because it's just cloudy over there. But didn't sleep too great last night. Well, I slept alright. No fault of the tent though. Unfortunately, I think my sleeping mat's developed a slight leak, so I blew it up about 4 times in the night. So that's not good. I think I'll have to send that back. But yeah, apart from that, tent's been a tent really. It's quite dark in there, so you don't get a lot of light getting through compared to some tents, which is a good thing. Condensation, there's a little bit. There's been no wind or anything like that, but there's not a lot. Well, there's not really any mesh on this tent, to be honest with you. So ventilation wise, it's not great. So yeah, there's quite a bit of condensation, unfortunately. But let's run through this now. I'm going to do this now, and then I'll pack it away and I'll say my goodbyes. But yeah, the Nyx 200, what do I think? I'm not impressed. Not at all impressed. Quite disappointed actually. Pegs are rubbish. Fiberglass poles are thin. There's not a lot of ventilation. So if it is summer, it's going to get roasting in there. Even if you just left the outside door open and had the inside closed, because of midges, flies, bugs, etc., you're still really going to be roasting in that thing. At night, it's not too bad. Obviously, I'm up here. This is start of May, and yeah, it's not the warmest time of year, but it's still a warm time of year, if you understand what I'm saying. And I think it was probably 10 degrees or so up here last night. It was forecast for 6 degrees, but I don't think it was that cold at all. It was a warm night. So ventilation wise, you know, when it comes to actually getting quite hot and warm, a bit warm in there, just to say the least. Right, so how do I think it pitches? It pitched all right, and 7 minutes is about right, to be fair. Of course, I stopped in between to talk to you guys, but yeah, it's not a difficult tent to put up really. Putting it back down, I think it's going to be fairly easy. I think I can just stuff it in the bag, because the actual bag itself is a large bag. It's for beginners, it says, and you can just stuff it in and quite easily, and wouldn't really be a problem, you know. Is it worth the £55? I'll be honest with you, this is a £35 tent, this. I mean, if we're talking about comparing, you know, this tent to a Euro hike tent, it's not any better at all. Not any better at all. Like that Tame R2 that I tested, it's a far better tent than this. Really is. The poles are dead thin on this, and then the fiberglass, I just don't trust it. When I put it up in the garden for the first time, I didn't loosen off the straps, because I thought I'll try and get it in without loosening them, and I heard some noises I didn't want to hear. So I can already tell that the fiberglass poles aren't really going to put up with much. Would it put up with much in the wind? I don't think it will. I think it'll flap around. There's not enough guy lines. It's not a bad weather tent. You can't take this tent into some windy, you know, sort of heavy rain conditions and expect to not have any problems, because I can already tell that it'll have problems. So yeah, wouldn't recommend it for that. What would I recommend it for? If you really want to buy this tent, festival tent maybe, campsite, summer. Like for me, it's a 2-season tent. It looks like a 3-season, or even could look like a 4-season, but it isn't. It's nowhere near that. It's a 2-season tent. I wouldn't use this in the autumn. I wouldn't use this in the winter. I'd use this spring and summer, and that's it. And I'll be honest with you, I think what I'm going to try and do, I'm going to try and take it back and get my money back for it, because it's There's not many redeeming qualities about it, I'll be honest with you. It's not very big. The Fox 2 was was wider and longer inside, which is only another £14 if if it's at the right price at Go Outdoors. The only downside to the Fox 2 is very low, and I don't like that. The upside to this is you can sit out on one side and look out. Again, you can only really do that when the weather's nice. Yeah, it's not good, guys. It's not good at all. I'm quite disappointed in this tent. It has... Oh, I had a little bit of expectation with it, and I really can't recommend it. It's a shame. If you have got this tent, and if you think I'm making this sound like I'm just shitting on it for the sake of shitting on it, I'm really not. I've tested other tents, I've got other tents, and this is nowhere near as good. If you've used this up in the Highlands or up in the Lake District or wherever, up a mountain or whatever, then kudos to you, because I really wouldn't bother try doing that with this. It's nowhere near as good as anything else I've got. So yeah, I think I'm going to pack it away. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think I'm going to go and take it back to Go Outdoors, get my money back, because it's rubbish. Don't buy the tent. There's better tents for the money. Trust me. There's far better tents for the money. I originally went to Go Outdoors to buy the Hyena 2, which is £10 more, which is sold out everywhere. The OEX one. And yeah, it's probably twice the tent, and I've not tested it yet, but I will be doing. So if you don't want to rush out buying a tent, and you want to buy, say, a cheap tent for now, the Eurohike Tamar 2, decent enough. It'll get you for a good first wild camp or whatever. It's not the lightest, but it doesn't really matter. Don't let this lightweight gear fool you, of everyone saying, oh, you got to buy lightweight this, lightweight that. If you're just going on a wild camp up to a tarn or on a small hill, or a small fell in the Lake District, you don't need to be getting the most lightweight of lightweight tents. You don't need a Hitlerberg, you don't need any of this. Just get yourself the Tamar 2, just get yourself a cheap tent, but not this tent. And yeah, just see how you go. And then if you get into it, then start looking and getting better tents, exploring a bit more in the quality of tents you can buy. There's so many downsides to this tent that I can't recommend it. There's not enough pros. If I was to talk about pros, I don't have any pros, guys. I don't understand. I like the idea of sitting out of that door, but you can only use this tent in good weather. You can't risk going up a fell if there's any risk of 30-mile-an-hour winds, because I think this is just going to go sideways for you, especially with these pegs. Definitely not use those pegs. Do what I do, buy a spare set of pegs. Although I only have 10 of those spare set of pegs, because that's normally about how much you want. Probably 12, but I got 10. But there's 21 pegs for this. I don't know why. But yeah, not good. So I'm gonna pack everything up, and I'll come back to you. Well, there you go, guys. Once again, of course, leave no trace. Taking everything with me that I brought up here. But yeah, well, guys, the first tent I can't recommend for anyone, except for festival goers. If you want a throwaway tent, yeah, why not? But there are cheaper tents anyway, so yeah, swings and roundabouts. Yeah, I feel like it's a big waste of my time, that tent, and that's how you'll probably feel if you buy it. There are a lot of tents out there which, on the face of it, you think, oh, that'll do the job, and then you get it and you realise there's so many shortcomings from that tent. There's so many things that could be better, that you may as well have just spent the extra money and got a better tent. So yeah, there you go guys. I can't recommend the Vango Nyx 200. I don't know what the Nevis is like or anything like that, those higher sort of mid-range tents, what quality they are. They're similar design. They all look the same, Vango tents. Don't know why, they just don't change it up a little bit, but they all look the same, although there are differences, you know, side doors, etc. But yeah, I like the idea of the door at the back of the tent. So yeah, that didn't work out nice. It's a shame, it's not long enough, it's not wide enough. That's all I'm going to say about that one, guys. Anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know if I'm right. If you've had a Nyx, tell me your experiences. Tell me why I'm such a buffoon and I should have done it a different way. Or tell me, yeah, you're right, I shouldn't have bought that tent and I've got this tent now. Let me know what you have got. If you have had the Nyx in the past, tell me why you don't have it now. So thanks for watching, and I'm going to leave this beautiful place once again. It's such a good place for me to go and do these tests, these tent reviews and tests. I think a lot of people who put these tents up in the back garden and then do reviews, or in a field somewhere, you don't get the true nature of what you've got to contend with, if you know what I mean. But out here, we know we're getting the same sort of tests, if you will, weather dependent. Obviously, I'm glad the weather was what it was like last night, because otherwise I'd have been having a miserable existence, because I wouldn't have been able to really cook my food very easily. I wouldn't have been able to really enjoy the night. So yeah, it's probably a good thing that the weather was nice, because I wouldn't have been able to sit up, have a drink and have a bolognese. I was just out here instead cooking in nature's back garden. So thank you very much for watching. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, check out my other tent reviews if you want to have a look at tents. I've done a few of those. It's in the playlist, tent reviews on my channel. If you want to watch my wild camps, again, playlist of wild camps on the channel. Just subscribe guys, click that bell so you get notified whenever there's a new video. They're a bit on and off at the minute, just simply because I've been busy having to set up this changeover of business, if you will. So yeah, I've got a baby, I've got a business to sort out. I've just been mega snowed under, but I've thankfully been able to get out today. So anyway, I'm going to get down, get to work, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the day. See you later guys.